Do you run a country? Wanna get rich quick, even without massive reserves of oil? Let Donald Trump show you how. Over the weekend, the Trump administration, in the person of Jared Kushner, announced the first part of its long-awaited plan for Israeli-Palestinian peace. Its central component was the creation of a huge investment fund meant to induce the Palestinian leadership to surrender their national ambitions in exchange for the chance to participate in a new economic boom fueled by tourism and other postmodern industries. The administration calls this approach peace to prosperity. To put it in perspective, it's actually not such a huge investment fund, $50 billion over 10 years, divided unequally among the Palestinian territories and the nations of Egypt, Lebanon and Jordan. Over the same 10-year period, American military aid to Israel will total about $38 billion, and most of the money for the peace plan wouldn't even come from the U.S. Kushner wants America's Middle Eastern, European and Asian allies to pony up a large share of it. The whole notion here is that we want people to agree on the plan, and then we'll have a discussion with people to see who is interested in potentially doing what, he told Reuters television. Does this idea sound familiar? Perhaps because at almost the same time Trump was dangling a version of the same deal, do what we want and you'll get rich, to Iran, which had just shot down an American drone. We're not going to have Iran have a nuclear weapon, he told reporters. When they agree to that, they're going to have a wealthy country. They're going to be so happy, and I'm going to be their best friend. I hope that happens. It's also the same pitch Trump has made many times to Kim Jong-un, most recently just a week ago in an interview with George Stephanopoulos. North Korea has, almost of any undeveloped country anywhere in the world, that country has the chance to be economically a behemoth. It's a phenomenal location. That country can be so rich. In Trump's worldview, a phenomenal location is a prime requisite to becoming economically a behemoth, and the president has lavishly praised North Korea's potential as a venue for luxury golf courses. If Kim would just stop building atomic bombs and testing intercontinental ballistic missiles, even nations without a nuclear weapons program can join in the bonanza, like, say, Venezuela. According to the White House transcript of Trump's remarks in March to the wife of the man the U.S. recognizes as the leader of the country, the potential of Venezuela, if done properly and with democracy, would be incredible. It was one of the richest countries, certainly one of the truly rich countries of the world, and now it's one of the poorest countries of the world. Trump's experience for most of his life has involved dealing with companies rather than countries, so the slip of the tongue is understandable, but his propensity to frame virtually every issue confronting him as president in terms of profit, loss and wealth says a lot about the mindset he has carried with him into the White House. Specifically, he is fixated on a theory known as mercantilism, which measures comparative economic success among nations by their balance of trade, treating international commerce as a zero-sum game. Mercantilism had its heyday in the 16th through 18th centuries, but has been in decline more or less since Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations. In prevailing economic theory over the last few centuries, if a factory in Mexico sells a pair of socks to Walmart for $1, neither side is disadvantaged. Mexico has the dollar, and a customer in the U.S. has the socks. Obviously, international trade in the real world is more complicated. Nations, even wealthy ones like the U.S., whose per capita GDP is around 7 times that of Mexico, have an interest in protecting their industries and jobs to balance against the desire to provide imported consumer goods at the lowest price. That's why there are thousands of pages of trade treaties among countries. But Trump, at least in his public statements, seems to recognize only one side of the transaction, the dollar leaving the U.S. That's a dollar someone could have spent at one of his hotels. After all, here is how he sees it. On the other side of the ledger, he sometimes seems to view his job as being marketer-in-chief for American exports, notably military gear. Here is how he recently explained his position on selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, in the face of objections by liberal snowflakes to that nation bombing civilians in Yemen and hacking journalists to death. Saudi Arabia, very rich country. We defend them. We subsidize Saudi Arabia. They have nothing but cash, right? And they buy a lot from us. $450 billion. They bought. And you had people wanting to cut off Saudi Arabia. They bought $450 billion. I don't want to lose them. Or, even more simply, to Chuck Todd on NBC's Meet the Press, take their money, Chuck.